Hi, Church. I'm really thankful for this opportunity to be able to share a bit on how I've been blessed and have grown in 2020. I'm 16 this year and I've just completed my O-levels about a month ago. I'm sure most will agree that COVID-19 was something that set the tone for the whole of 2020, and it was something very unexpected and revealing. Back when there was a sudden surge in local cases, schools were shut down and everyone was forced to stay at home. Initially, I didn't feel much about this and I was quite happy because it felt like a school holiday out of nowhere. But after about a week, I began to feel the effects of being isolated at home, and I missed the funny interactions I had with my friends every day. I began to sense fear through the text messages and Zoom calls I had with my friends. And some were worried about falling behind academically in this crucial year of exams, while others were just worried about their parents' job security as to whether they'll be able to tide through this time emotionally and financially. With most lessons transitioning to Zoom, Zoom fatigue also set in, where I would get increasingly restless because of the continuous hours of lessons without much discussion and movement. However, for me, the major event was the transitioning of church from gathering together to live stream. The abrupt stop to physical interaction really hit me because although I don't really talk much in church, but I really appreciate being able to worship together and the small conversations I had with people. I realized the importance of relationships in church and realized how much I took it for granted. Thankfully, the weekly youth fellowship quickly transitioned to Zoom, and I was able to continue growing and encourage each other through Bible studies and prayer. This pandemic helped me to realize the importance, how helpless we are when we rely on our own efforts alone. The constant development of the world is seen to us as success as we become more and more interconnected around the globe. However, ironically, this resulted in one virus being able to bring the whole world to a freeze within months. We rely so much on ourselves and others, but we forget who is the one that gives us each new day and holds everything together. This really was a humbling experience for me as I'm reminded of how helpless I am and how uncertain our future is without God. This realization continued to grow in me as I continued through my school life. In June, the COVID situation got better and schools were allowed to reopen. However, I still sensed much anxiety and fear amongst my friends. Some started having meltdowns in class because of the overwhelming pressure of work piling up, and others were overly sensitive of physical interactions in fear of the virus. I even have a friend who was unable to take public transport and had to wait for his parents to fetch him to and from school because they were afraid of him coming into contact with too many people. I also felt scared and anxious during this period, but I didn't know how long I have to deal with these COVID restrictions. However, I had an assurance that they didn't have, an assurance of an all-powerful, all-knowing God that they could seek in this time. God's plan is perfect. He is and always will be in complete control, and I can be confident in the fact that our future is secure for all who believe. God's love is constant. His continued providence is evident in many things that we still enjoy in these times of difficulty, such as having food on the table and having able bodies to continue carrying out our duties in school and work, even from home. Despite knowing all these and the significance of God in life, deep down I still believe that I was enough and that my efforts will be able to carry me through this exam. The continuous pressure and stress built up leading up to the O-levels, and the breaking point for me was after prelims. I had an L1R5 of 27, which was quite bad, and I fumbled in papers that I usually did well in. I was in total shock to the point that I wasn't absorbing anything in class for the next 3 days, and I was just staring blankly at the screen. Yeah. I couldn't believe that this is where I stood academically, less than a month before O-levels. I was disappointed in myself, and this was one of the lowest points I've been in. At this point, I had nowhere else to turn. I couldn't possibly recover, get back into pace, and grind through everything in less than a month. But throughout all these, there were a few people in church who were constant and were there to pick me up during this trying time. Through subsequent weeks of prayer and reflecting on songs on my way to school, I realized how much I needed God's strength to make it through each day. One of the songs I listened to was I Am With You, which reminded me of the truths mentioned in John and Romans, assuring me of my identity before God. Two of the stanzas read, "Fear not, loved one, hear my comfort. None can pluck you from my hand. Trust me, loved one, I am constant. None can change what I have planned. Fear not, loved one, hear my witness. You are God's own child and heir. Trust me, loved one, hear my whisper. With you, in you, I am here." Because of the O-levels, the issue of self-sufficiency surfaced, and I had to learn to replace my confidence with myself with God. I was increasingly fatigued every day, burdened and worried about whether I'll be able to prepare in time for the O-levels. But no matter how daunting the next day seemed, God never failed to sustain me with just enough strength through the day. The weeks were still filled with moments of doubt and uncertainty, but these only reminded me of how fragile I was, and that if I was being overly worried, it meant that I was doubting God's sovereignty in this situation. By God's grace, most of my exams went through smoothly, without any panic attacks, which I usually experienced in previous exams. Before every paper, I had to go to God to remind myself that ultimately the outcome is in His hands, whether good or bad, and I had no right to put my confidence in anything else except His guidance. To me, all my worth was defined in my grades, and my relationship with God was secondary. I saw my relationship with God as just one out of the many aspects of my life, and that reflecting on His word and talking to Him was something I did occasionally in an attempt to win His favor through my own efforts in desperate times. Although I haven't received my results yet, and I'm unsure about how I will do, I'm confident that my worth is not in my achievements. My worth is in my identity before God, saved and redeemed by Him. Nothing will make me any less loved by God, and there's nothing I can do to merit His grace. My work shouldn't be used in an attempt to buy His favor, but instead used for His kingdom, be it through serving, encouraging, or pointing others to Him. I'm really thankful for what God has taught me this year. He revealed my weakness and arrogance, yet I can trust Him, knowing that He is all-knowing and all-powerful. As Hebrews 4:15 reads, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weakness, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then with full confidence draw near to His throne, that we might receive mercy and find grace in time of need." God came as a man and struggled with sin as much as we did. He can relate to us fully, and thus we should come to Him openly with full confidence. I am thankful for friends in church who have pointed me back to God and reminded me of where my anchor should be. I am thankful for the youth camp which took place earlier this week that assured me of my identity and position before God. Please pray for me as I continue to grow in 2021. Thank you.